Welcome to the $1 Million Handbook, U Squared, written and narrated by Dr. Price Pritchett. Copyright 2018 Pritchett LP. Terms for the single-user license can be found at pritchettnet.com/legal.
U Squared, a high-velocity formula for multiplying your personal effectiveness in quantum leaps. For my friend, U Squared. If you do not expect it, you will not find the unexpected, for it is hard to find and difficult. Heraclitus, 500 BC. A true story. I'm sitting in a quiet room at the Millcroft Inn, a peaceful little place hidden back among the pine trees about an hour out of Toronto. It's just past noon, late July, and I'm listening to the desperate sounds of a life-or-death struggle going on a few feet away. There's a small fly burning out the last of its short life's energies in a futile attempt to fly through the glass of the window pane. The whining wings tell a poignant story of the fly's strategy. Try harder. But it's not working. The frenzied effort offers no hope for survival. Ironically, the struggle is part of the trap. It is impossible for the fly to try hard enough to succeed at breaking through the glass. Nevertheless, this little insect has staked its life on reaching its goal through raw effort and determination. This fly is doomed. It will die there on the windowsill. Across the room, 10 steps away, the door is open. 10 seconds of flying time, and this small creature could reach the outside world it seeks. With only a fraction of the effort now being wasted, it could be free of this self-imposed trap. The breakthrough possibility is there. It would be so easy. Why doesn't the fly try another approach, something dramatically different? How did it get so locked in on the idea that this particular route and determined effort offer the most promise for success? What logic is there in continuing, until death, to seek a breakthrough with more of the same? No doubt this approach makes sense to the fly. Regrettably, it's an idea that will kill. Trying harder isn't necessarily the solution to achieving more. It may not offer any real promise for getting what you want out of life. Sometimes, in fact, it's a big part of the problem. If you stake your hopes for a breakthrough on trying harder than ever, you may kill your chances for success. The promise. Are you ready for this? Right now, in this moment, you are capable of exponential improvement in your performance. You can multiply your personal effectiveness, hit new highs, and shatter your old achievement records. The results you can have will be hard for you to imagine. You can become U Squared. You don't have to settle for things as they are now. That can change dramatically. If you're ready, life is prepared to give you a breakthrough experience. You can jump to a higher orbit of achievement, live the dream, enjoy a completely different plane of success. Also, you don't have to be content with improving things incrementally or gradually. Just as your level of performance can improve drastically, so can your rate of accomplishment. Furthermore, the U Squared formula requires far less effort than you've given in the past. You haven't been reaching your full potential. So far, you haven't even come close. No matter how you wish to measure success, regardless of how you define achievement, you have barely scratched the surface of what you personally can accomplish. But maybe the time has come to change all that. Maybe you're ready to make a quantum leap. Quantum leaps. Quantum leap is a term taken from the vocabulary of the new physics, quantum physics, the science behind such technological breakthroughs as lasers, television, computers, space communication, and nuclear energy. Quantum physics is described as the most powerful science ever conceived by human beings. It requires a major rethinking of such concepts as time and space and how human consciousness operates. Quantum physics also has staggering implications regarding you, your potential, and the power of your mind. To put it simply, as human beings, we're going to have to reframe our ideas about the universe and how we fit into it. Fred Alan Wolf, in his award-winning book titled Taking the Quantum Leap, describes the term as the explosive jump that a particle of matter undergoes in moving from one place to another. In a figurative sense, taking the quantum leap means taking a risk, going off into an uncharted territory with no guide to follow. Physicists studying quantum mechanics note the particles make these jumps without apparent effort and without covering all the bases between the starting and ending points. What's going on here? How does this happen? And is it possible for you as an individual to do something very similar in your personal performance? U squared. Most people operate with a mindset that assumes success comes one step at a time. The unspoken but popular notion is that we must move systematically from our present level of achievement to the next. Then, the thinking goes, from that stage, we can begin working toward graduating to still the next higher level in the sequence. Gradual progress. This is an unfortunate misconception, and it's clearly reflected in the way people function. They go about day to day striving to make incremental gains in their performance. That's pretty routine. That's the pathway of conventional growth. But your life simply does not have to operate that way. Advancing at a measured pace, step by step from where you are to a little bit better, ordinarily feels easier, more natural, even safer. But in certain areas of your life, you can just as easily think in terms of skipping levels. You can move from your present level of achievement to one that is several stages higher, directly. You make the quantum leap. You become U squared. Instead of accepting present circumstances or being content with gradual improvement, you go for a breakthrough. U squared implies an explosive jump in your personal performance that puts you far beyond the next logical step. It's a formula for stunning advances in achievement and the realization of your dreams. The concept is one of exponential gains rather than incremental progress. You might compare it to multiplying instead of adding. It means a geometric progression in your effectiveness. Now that's exciting as well as provocative, but it gets even better. Remember, quantum leaps can come without apparent effort. These are high-velocity moves that carry you to dramatically higher performance levels without a time-consuming struggle. Quantum leaps seem to violate common sense, utterly. The idea of moving to a higher orbit and skipping several rungs on the achievement ladder in the process strikes people as far-fetched, maybe even outrageous. After the fact, quantum leaps may be viewed as practical, sensible, even obvious moves. But they typically do not come to you as the obvious moves at the moment. Usually, it's in retrospect that you perceive their hidden logic and elegance. Invariably, quantum leaps are not complex or intricate maneuvers. They tend to be simple, energy efficient, and time-saving. U squared, the quantum leap strategy, can deliver those special dreams and ambitions that you instinctively feel should be yours. But the breakthrough demands a radical departure from some of your habits. Change your personal rules for success. Leveraging up your personal effectiveness by an order of magnitude, going from U to U squared, is not a commonplace idea. You shouldn't be surprised to hear that unconventional success calls for unconventional approaches. Quantum leaps require paradoxical behavior, unusual moves, actions that on the surface often seem to contradict common sense. As human beings, though, we ordinarily go with the obvious. We fall into the habit of relying on behaviors that seem to have worked best for us over the years. When we take an approach that seems to be very serviceable and which enables us to perform well and succeed, we become very attached to it. We don't readily relinquish that habit pattern. In fact, there's a tendency to follow our favorite approach more and more often, such that we get better and better at handling that particular way. This adroitness with a certain approach results in our overdependence on the strategies and tactics it involves. We resist new maneuvers because they make us feel clumsy, awkward, more at risk. But if you want to accelerate your rate of achievement rapidly, you must search out and vigorously employ new behaviors, new attitudes. You must be willing to break out of your routines in order to make the quantum leap. The things that worked for you in the past very likely could sooner or later lose their serviceability. Even if your customary approach still holds promise for maintaining your present level of performance and growth curve, it may not help you much if you want to hit far higher achievement levels. And if you continue to rely on those old routines, maybe even leaning on them most when your performance flattens out or sags, you create a trap for yourself. There's a certain irony here. Your historically most dependable behaviors can become the major obstacles to future success. It's possible for them to cripple your progress. They may stand as a personal boundary line that limits what you can accomplish with your life. There is, however, another course of action. It is the way of the quantum leap, U squared. The following chapters explain the peculiar strategy that is involved. Quit trying harder. Quantum leaps cannot be achieved through incremental steps or through more of the same. You've got to shift gears. You have to follow new patterns of thought and action. The rules of what works and what doesn't always change when you're trying to make a move from normal performance to U squared. Stop and think about it. Here's the way it goes. More of the same usually just gives you more of the same. Of course, if that's mainly what you're after, fine. Try a little harder and get a little bigger payoff. Try a lot harder and you can expect a lot better results. Right? Well, possibly, but it's definitely not a sure thing. Sooner or later, you're going to reach the point where you can't try any harder. It may be that your spirit flags, or that your physical and mental resources are stretched to the limit. And often, well before you come to that set of circumstances, you reach the point of diminishing returns. Trying harder and harder starts producing less and less. Sometimes, in fact, intensifying your efforts produces nothing except bigger problems. As a case in point, go back to the story of the fly. That little insect could have turned away from the window 180 degrees and followed the path of least resistance as it flew to the open door. A quantum leap to freedom. 10 seconds of effortless flight would have produced total success, while hours of frustration and panic spent beating its wings against the glass were destined to end fruitlessly in death on the dusty windowsill. Now, this is not an argument against self-discipline or persistence. Those are true virtues. Over a lifetime, they can make a powerful contribution to success and achievement. They're fundamental to the development of your talents. It's extremely important to apply yourself diligently, and sometimes staying power is what delivers a big win. But ordinarily, you will find that trying harder produces only incremental gains, not quantum leaps. Also keep in mind that trying harder, even a lot harder, sometimes offers little more than a straight path to burnout. Attempting to succeed through more of the same, being resolute, and relying on committed effort can blind you to better pathways. If you want to make a quantum leap, quit thinking about trying harder. More effort isn't the answer. Ignore conventional approaches. Get ruthless about trying something different. Ordinarily, we achieve conventional growth because we think along conventional lines. We experience reasonable performance gains because we rely on reasonable approaches. We find ways to make modest improvements in our level of success because we go looking for nothing more. Quantum leaps require you to abandon the status quo. Instead of once again trying what you've always done, maybe with a little more intensity and determination, ignore the usual. U squared requires an abrupt change in behavior. Look for a paradoxical move. For example, consider reversing your field. Try being illogical. Ricochet. If you're trying to climb over the wall, open a door and walk through. If you're pushing against the river, try going with the flow. Use finesse instead of effort. You must do something new. The tendency, when you stall out or begin to level off in your performance, is to go back to the basics and do what you do best. But doing what you do best can be the worst thing you could do. It really doesn't matter how well you can do something if it's the wrong thing to do. Faith in the familiar sets the trap. And you spring it when you reinvest yourself in what logically seems like it should work because it usually worked in the past. To make a quantum leap,